Welcome to MRII's Insights and Innovators podcast, where we talk to top market research professionals to get their inside stories about innovative and enduring best practices. Today's episode is sponsored by MMR Research Associates. MMR Research Associates is an agile, full-service marketing research firm with a global support network that performs customized research around the world. Now, here's your host for today's episode.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today's episode of Insights and Innovators. I'm your host, Stan Swaminathan. Today's topic is all about how to stay relevant and get ahead in a rapidly changing world, and more importantly, the role of skills development in that journey. We are certainly at a crossroad within the insights industry, and as it goes through transformation, and I'm sure you'll find the session very useful. We have a great guest for this topic, Michelle Froah. Michelle is Chief Global Marketing and Innovation Officer at ETS and also SVP of Corporate Solutions. In this episode, Michelle shares her perspective on skill development, credentialing, and adaptations to turbocharge your career. There is a lot to be learned from a varied experience in great marketing organizations like Procter& Gamble, Kimberly-Clark, Samsung, and more recently, MetLife, before she joined ETS. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you. So lovely to be here.
Thank you. Thanks for making time for us. Let's start with your background and career journey. By the way, we share something in common. We both are engineers before we became marketers.
Oh my goodness. Fantastic. And what kind of engineer?
Mechanical engineer. And what about you?
Of course, the best.
What about you?
I'm mechanical as well.
Oh,
I know, right? And funny, it's like we have a whole family of that. My husband is also a mechanical engineer. We met in college, and my son is a budding mechanical engineer, just getting ready to graduate in June.
Brilliant. All great engineers are mechanical engineers. I would like to tell me, how did your transition from engineering to marketing happen?
Well, boy, such a long story, but what I would start with first is that I think I've always been inspired by a poem that was something that really resonated with me even back when I was in high school, and that poem was "Taking the Road Less Traveled." You know that poem, right? So, there's a line in the poem, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And so I share that because I think first and foremost, one of those paths less traveled by was becoming a mechanical engineer, and then actually putting that into play. I worked at Procter & Gamble for my first assignment in a manufacturing plant, and working in a company like P&G, where, I think there's such a great culture at P&G where people invest in you, as a person, as a leader, but also there's so many opportunities across the organization, right? And there was another road, that emerged that was a little less traveled, of going from engineering and product supply into marketing. And, I think I became very interested in that route for a couple of reasons. One, I was doing my MBA at night while I worked in the plant, and I thought, wow, this was really interesting, to think about a business more holistically. And two, I worked on some initiatives, that were broader, new innovation initiatives, and bringing those brand innovations into the plant to start up, right? And so I started having more exposure to other functions, and I thought, wow, like there's actually people that sit and think about consumers and what consumers think about, and It isn't decisions only for efficiency of how we run things on the line. Of course, those are very important things as well.
Yeah.
But how do you really differentiate
Mm.
your products and your value proposition to really deliver on real consumer needs? And at P&G, there was this whole notion that customer is boss.
Mm.
And in order to understand what the boss wants, you have to understand what they need. And so having, a real desire to, bring insights into action, was one of the things that um, drew me um, uh, into marketing. And I think to answer your question about transition, I think it was an interesting transition. It was not unheard of within P&G, for different functions to go into marketing. Marketing kind of was the hub of the wheel, if you will. But I think there were probably a lot more sales folks and leaders that went into marketing than necessarily manufacturing or engineers. And so I think the transition of being a creative problem solver
Mm.
was very beneficial.
Mhm.
And so sometimes I'm very grateful that I have, both a
Yeah.
rational problem solving, engineering background,
Mhm.
but also this creative mindset and training of how do you apply marketing and innovation, in new spaces. And so sometimes I like to say I'm a creative marketer, or I'm sorry, creative engineer, but a practical marketer, right? And I try and use both sides of my brain. But so that part I think was an easy transition.
Mm.
Also, when you're when you're an engineer in a manufacturing environment, I was leading production teams.
Mm.
So I was trying to, I sometimes say play whack-a-mole with all of the different variables. You needed, to lower your costs, you needed to increase quality, increase safety, increase organizational capability, like all these things that could go in different directions. And, being like a general manager really of your area was a very transferable skill, if you will, as you went into marketing and business management. But on the other hand, um, I think it was very easy for my new management, to say, oh, wow, Michelle has, project management skills, and, we should just put her in charge of the critical path schedule of a project versus like let's go do the actual marketing activities, for whatever. So I did have to fight a little bit, to not just utilize my strengths, but also help expand and grow into, this marketing profession.
That's awesome. There's a lot of similarities with what I have gone through, but let's not go there.
Right? That could be the whole conversation.
Yeah. And now I would love to ask you a few questions about learnings that you can share based on your professional experience. But before that, I certainly want to ask you about the ETS Human Progress Report. Can you please share with us some big highlights from this report? Because that sounds really fascinating.
Right. Well, so a little bit about ETS and why we've published the Human Progress Report might help a little bit. So, ETS historically it has a huge reputation,
Mhm.
strong reputation in the educational testing
Yep.
area, right? So long standing, and as one of the reasons I was so drawn to this company
Mm.
was because it's mission based,
Mm.
and and it has like a real purpose,
Mm.
and taking our expertise from the educational
Mm.
arena and applying that into, where people as lifelong learners need that same expertise
Mhm.
in the workforce and along other periods of their life and career journey. is such a great business transformation to be part of.
Mhm.
And really, that expands the impact of our mission.
Mm.
And that mission is to advance the science of measurement,
Uh-huh.
power human progress. And so, that measurement piece, which I know we're going to be talking a lot about here, are really, helping people to demonstrate their proficiency
Mhm.
of, of skills, and whether that's technical, durable, etc. But there are challenges
Mm.
that people face
Mhm.
in achieving that human progress.
Mm.
And so last year, in 2024, when we relaunched ETS as a brand, we published our first human progress report.
Mhm.
And this January, we published our second. And so the human progress report really was aimed at looking across the globe, so
Mhm.
18 countries, 18,000 participants,
Mhm.
and looking at what are some of the critical areas where people feel like there might be barriers or difficulties in achieving human progress.
Mhm.
And there's some very interesting insights that came out of that. There's a full report on our website that is able to be downloaded. But some that stick with me are that across the globe, over 60% of people, who are employees, have anxiety about FOBO,
Mm.
fear, fear of being obsolete,
Mm.
the rapid pace of change,
Mhm.
right? Now you might think, oh, that's generational. Maybe it's the older generation. No, it's actually higher for Gen Z.
Wow.
65% of Gen Z have FOBO.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I think that's having a couple Gen Zs myself. I see that in their quest for finding, where do I fit in the working world with AI, sometimes even taking over some of these entry level roles,
Mhm.
some of those functions.
Mm.
I think this generation is feeling a lot of anxiety due
Mm.
to that.
Awesome.
Some of the other interesting insights, I think, are that over 55% of the respondents agree that they don't understand how their skills compare to their peers. We don't have a measuring stick for
Mm.
skills.
Mm.
They're technical and sometimes those durable skills. And, we say durable versus like soft because there's nothing soft about them. They're just hard to measure.
Mhm.
Right? And these are very transferable skills that you need over the course of your career, but also you need to pair those with your technical skills to be able to be successful.
Mm.
So because they don't understand how they compare to their peers, the majority of people, over 85% of people, say that they would want to certify their skills because they think that improves their chance of
Mm.
securing a better or higher paying job, but also helps their career trajectory. So
Mm.
really thinking about how we use measurement and advancing the science of measurement to help people demonstrate skill proficiency
Mhm.
is so core to our mission,
Yeah.
and we think also core to helping humans progress.
Beautiful. Very well articulated, Michelle. Thank you so much. You referred to durable skills. And also, you talked about transferability across industries. Can you talk a little bit more about that from your own personal experience? And along the way, can you also talk about future nav?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite topics. Thank you
Yeah.
for asking. Well, I think I'd come back to my earlier story just for a moment about starting in a manufacturing plant early in my career. I think frankly, being 22 and being put in a management position it allowed me to really hone some of those durable skills.
Mm.
And I have found that I have leaned in on utilizing those throughout my career.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter if across all of the roles that I've had, I've been in different functions.
Mm.
So, in product supply, for example, or manufacturing, I've been in different aspects of brand, whether that's, design, upstream design, P&L, or even at P&G, I was in shopper marketing when that was kind of a new thing.
Mm.
And then in cross-functional broadening assignments like sales, I've been at the global, the regional, the local level. I've I've lived in Singapore, ran across APAC. It doesn't matter what role, what function, and where I've been, um, and what new challenge is put in front of me, I would say.
Mhm.
I tend to go back to some of those real transferable skills like leadership.
Mm.
Hard thing to measure, right? But figuring out how you can be useful as a leader,
Mm.
I think has been something that I've carried through with me. So as a real example, talking about insights, right? And insight leaders and being very technical. Even though when I was on the line, and managing a manufacturing line, even though I had an engineering degree, that didn't mean that I could physically go online and fix, the filling machine
Mhm.
by myself.
Mhm.
I did not have that technical skill. I was definitely not certified to do that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't my role as the leader,
Mhm.
right? My role wasn't doing the work
Mhm.
of the people on my team. My role was understanding the barriers and the challenges they had and figuring out how I could help remove those barriers and challenges so they could do the work that they needed to get done.
Mm.
Or it was helping them strategically problem solve.
Mm.
We used to do a lot of 5S, if you remember that in the day,
Mm.
and help strategically problem solve. I've used those techniques and tools
Mm.
and thoughts about leadership
Mm.
in all of my roles, particularly when I've had marketing science teams
Mm.
that are part of my marketing team.
Mhm.
And, a lot of times it's like, oh, we do research and we do insights and then we chuck out a report. No, that's not the intent of marketing science,
Mhm.
right? You have to put a new thought on how do you help creative problem solving with analysis and data
Mhm.
and let the people that, are experts,
Mm.
right, in doing that analysis, um, shine. So I think leadership is definitely one. I do think this notion, like I talked about as well, of learning general management skills and how to enable collaboration across functions or divisions or departments that you might have within your function and not let people get siloed is a huge skill, and again, one that I think is critically important that people don't, and me included, we don't get so focused on my result
Mm.
uh, versus our shared results
Right.
and having a shared ambition. So those are some of those durable skills. And then I honestly, the last one I think is resiliency.
Mm.
And you're gonna face challenges.
Mm.
Sometimes you're gonna win. Sometimes you're gonna go, that's a learning experience.
Mm.
But having the curiosity
Mm.
to live, I always say to live life on a startup curve,
Mm.
going back again to engineering, and be able to be resilient and pivot, I think is a durable skill that we all need.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
if I pivot to future nav,
Yeah.
I think that future nav is a solution that we're bringing to the workforce. It's an enterprise solution, and it helps measure and map individual skills, both technical and durable,
Mhm.
and really um, it provides actionable insights both for the individual to understand where their proficiency levels are and how they actually can grow those proficiency levels, right, through actionable insights, but also for the talent acquisition or the talent upskilling, reskilling decision makers.
Mhm.
Because you can look at these results, we call them skill prints. So a future nav skill print is almost like your individual fingerprint,
Mm.
your skill proficiencies. And talent decision makers then can look at those in aggregate. So
Mm.
they can make decisions on job fit for individual, jobs that they're trying to fill, but also across departments or levels or regions or however they want to
Mm.
cut those insights and help develop plans to upskill and reskill their organizations.
Mhm.
Um, so we're so excited about launching Future Nav. It's based on, again, our expertise in measuring the science of measurement and decades of research that back up our measurement and
Right.
applying it really to a new area, which is the workforce. And so I think it's, one, a very credible way
Yeah.
and a very objective way to help make talent management decisions that really opens up opportunities for all.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well put. So, Michelle, there's not a day that passes without you hearing the word AI. Yeah. So, based on, your vantage point, how should insights professionals think about AI? Is it a threat?
Well, I think anything is a threat if you think it is, right? I think this
But
is a
I agree with
mindset,
you both. I think, yeah, we are aligned there. Yeah. Mm.
right?
Yeah.
I'd come back to a couple of points. One is another insight that came out of our Human Progress Report this year is that AI literacy is a skill.
Mm.
And it's emerged as a top skill that's required to be competitive in today's job market. And this is really coming from both angles. I think from a personal, individual employee angle, we had, more than 6 in 10 people that believe that, AI literacy and problem solving and technical skills are really needed. And they want to receive credentials to show that they have those skills.
Mhm.
Now, on the other side, we also, with part of our Human Progress Report, we interviewed 1,000 talent decision makers in the U.S., and they also felt that AI literacy is one of the top skills needed, and that there's a gap in being able to assess
Mm.
people's ability to do that. And so with FutureNav, we have an assessment called FutureNav Adapt AI that measures AI literacy in a very situational way, so that people can get insights
Mhm.
on their literacy levels and their proficiency, but also growth paths and personalized development pathways.
Mhm.
So I would say, a couple of things like we're going to have to figure out how to work with AI,
Yeah.
right? And not against it. It's here to stay,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's not going anywhere.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's our responsibility,
Mhm.
all of us, to be able to use AI responsibly and ethically. So, we need to think about how we use AI for good.
Mhm.
Now, in some cases, our assessments are powered by AI so that we can get AI-powered insights quickly
Uh,
and reliably and things back to individuals and talent decision makers, et cetera.
uh,
Um, but, I think in order to, um, as business leaders, in order to think about how we use those responsibly and ethically, we have to work with our other functional partners in new ways.
Got it.
So how do we work with our technical teams?
Yeah.
How do we work with legal? And how do we set up responsible AI guidelines, not only, within our companies, but what we expect in working with other
Got
companies or other products and services.
it. So, Michelle, as you talk about, you're obviously very passionate about skill development. Uh, Based on your extensive experience, what tips do you have for young professionals uh, in terms of how they can accelerate skill development in a world around them that is changing at an incredible pace?
So, I think leaning into the durable skills of curiosity and agility, or even resilience, I think are going to be incredibly important. That is a mindset that people need to have.
Hmm.
And if you have a mindset that I'm done with school,
Hmm.
right, and education, and I don't need to learn anymore, I think you're going to stall as a individual
Mm.
and the success you can achieve. So upskilling and reskilling is an incredibly important,
A lifelong activity.
right, lifelong activity, of course.
Mm.
And so, that's on the rise, and we're seeing that people want more ability to showcase their credentials, showcase their certifications, in these areas. So if people are moving that direction, right, then a new benchmark's going to be set.
Mm.
So you really need to embrace upskilling and reskilling. Um, so in order to do that, I think you need sound measurement tools and solutions that allow people to demonstrate that and benchmark.
Mhm.
Um, and we truly believe that skill-based hiring is one of those ways to embrace that approach. So
Beautiful.
we need to think about how do we recast what a job is.
Mm.
It really just experience and formal uh, prerequisites,
Mm.
right? Or is it a job is a bundle of skills
Mm.
that someone needs to demonstrate?
Mhm.
And does that open up new opportunities for people, for example, to go from engineering into marketing,
It does.
or from, finance into technology, or vice versa? Or, how can we open up the aperture for people to think about
Mm.
new careers, new jobs, especially as technology and AI are changing what the future of jobs might be.
Mhm.
The jobs of today, like I'm not recalling the stat here off the top of my head, but I think there was a report that came out on from the Bureau of Jobs and the future of them, that 60% of the jobs or something in that range that exist today are not going to be the jobs of the future,
Uh,
right?
mm.
So, and you would think those jobs of the future are going to need a different skill set. So we're going to have to think about upskilling and reskilling if we're going to remain relevant in that future state.
Mm.
So I think, tips would be one, have that create or that agile, resilient, and curious mindset and treat those as a skill.
Mhm.
And then two, actively look for ways to upskill, reskill, and actually certify or credential yourself in the demonstration
Mhm.
uh, of those skills.
Awesome. I'm going to pivot a little bit here, Michelle. You have done a lot of senior marketing roles. Can you, based on all those roles, can you tell us what are the biggest challenges that you think are facing the insights professionals today? And how do you think, they should adapt and adopt new things to stay relevant?
So, specifically senior marketing roles?
No, the senior, from your vantage point as a senior marketing person, I'm just zeroing in on your perspective on what should insights professionals do
Mm-hmm.
to really become relevant and meaningful and impactful going forward.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think I'm going to go back to some of my experience at MetLife actually,
Mm-hmm.
and I had the uh, I guess interesting experience of being at MetLife during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of times insights professionals are thought of as market research professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so we are asked to go off and do a study and then do a readout report.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So every team I've ever taken on, under marketing and had it's always been called something like insights or market research or consumer research or something like that. And we made a concerted effort, uh, frankly, to rebrand that team, if you will, into a team called marketing science.
Mm-hmm.
And that was intentional because what I didn't want was a group of folks that felt like they were order takers,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that I go conduct this study, I give 100-page readout, and it's up to the business or the function or whoever I did the study for to figure out what are the actionable insights,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think becoming a putting on your business leader or business partner, how about that, hat, right? And thinking about first starting with what business strategy am I being asked to help inform,
Mm-hmm.
right, with this research
Mm-hmm.
or with this study, then helps you create hypotheses first
Mm-hmm.
before you go conduct the research.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that dialogue between insights professionals and or the marketing science professionals and the businesses or the functions or whoever their customer is, their internal customer, is so important before you just run off and do a study, right? And so that then when you use um, that to form your study, you also can use that to form, I would say, new analytical approaches to get to those true insights,
Mm-hmm.
not accepted customer beliefs or, the same that you're going to come out with, but true insights that can be put into action to drive change.
Got it.
And at MetLife during COVID, to come back to my example, there's people were always interested in these reports, but I think all of a sudden COVID hit and everyone went, "Oh my gosh, I wonder what people are thinking."
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a real voice of customer program?
Mm-hmm.
Do we have real insights from our customers that can help drive action? And so we stood up two programs during COVID
Mhm.
that were pretty intense. One was doing a pulse across the globe that, frankly, was a lot of work. And we changed our mindset and called ourselves the newsroom,
Mm.
right? So this wasn't like we did pulse every month in 11 countries,
Mm.
and people didn't want to know 3 months from now what the report said, at 3 months ago.
Mhm.
They wanted to know tomorrow what the results were from yesterday.
Mm.
So putting on our newsroom hat, we were like, how do we ingest this data quickly,
Mm.
come up with, actionable insights and get those out there for people to use immediately? And
Mm.
so we use new analytical tools. We used more of a newsroom approach where we were, it wasn't a ladder of let me put a report together, share it with my manager, share it with their manager, share it with me, kind of thing. It was all of us in one room in the newsroom saying, what's the headline?
Yep.
What's the takeaway? How do we get this out there? We had webinars, we had one-to-one sessions, we had, 100 ways we could cut the data quickly, all of these new approaches, and that was so refreshing.
You.
The second thing we did was stand up a relationship net promoter score program across those same groups.
Mm.
And it was more of a competitive benchmark,
Mhm.
but also used new analytical tools that got to, important drivers analysis that helped the business leaders then in those markets say, these are the important things that it's not 100 things I need to work on. It's one or two things that then drive that overall
Mm.
metric and score. And it was all very data driven.
Mhm.
So I think that partnering with your business leaders or your internal customer to really understand the strategy
Uh-huh.
and help them design the research that's going to help inform that strategy and the action plans is the key to success.
Key to success. Michelle, thank you so much for an incredibly stimulating session today. The old adage is you can never teach an old monkey new tricks. Uh,
Is it the
Today,
monkey or the dog?
no, monkeys. Today, you have proved that wrong. I am walking away with a few new tricks. And I really thank you for that. I am sure our audience will learn a lot from this session. And thank you once again. Really appreciate the time that you
So much. It's
and
been a
sharing with.
pleasure. It's been
Thank
an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for joining the Insights and Innovators podcast from Market Research Institute International. Click subscribe to never miss an episode and visit us at mrii.org for more market research insights.